Hi, everybody. This is day. Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and his life was taken from him right there in the line of duty on Fort Bliss. Let's see if everything is working. Let's see if everyone can hear me. Okay. His life was taken from him right there in the line today. On Fort Bliss. Let me turn this down a little. Yep. So everything's working. Today would have been his 26th birthday. Yeah. So I've already started getting a lot of messages about his birthday. The memory of his birthday, and really heartfelt. And I'll work on those tomorrow too. Well, today, but later on today, to get those out, to share them. Some of them that want to celebrate what a hero Richard is in his short life, just over 21 years. He did more to better the world than a whole host of people put together. So, I just compare him, you have just these greats. I've read so many biographies in my life, these great men, and I put Richard right beside them, What he has accomplished because of his courageous, uncompromised stand is really just amazing, overwhelming to think about, because, and I'll talk about it today, every day more and more is coming out, and it's because of Richard's courageous stand. I was even told today that it was his courageous stand that even started the investigations that were going on there in El Paso and Fort Bliss, that President Trump started. It was Richard's stand, his uncompromised stand. That's what I was told today. He was a real threat to the criminal cartel syndicate down there, that involves billionaires, right? That involves billionaires. And it has to involve billionaires because this is a billionaire criminal trafficking network, and they have allowed crime to go unpunished, and the criminal trafficking to no accountability, and so it has spread like cancer. It's spread like cancer all through the agencies, the 15 plus agencies, way more than 15 plus. 15, way more than 15. 15 plus is what Ted Cruz put in his letter, but it's more than that. And it's even exposing Ted Cruz, right? It's exposing Ted Cruz. It's exposing Lindsey Graham. It's exposing the billionaires. It's exposing Veronica Escobar and so many politicians in the El Paso area, because of their cowardice, their fearfulness. They take these oaths, but they're absolutely serving foreign and domestic enemies. Okay, they are, because if they weren't, they would stand up to this crime and this, absolutely call it out. It's kind of like the emperor with no clothes. The child is brave and says, "Look, the emperor has no clothes on," and then everyone else was like, "Oh, okay." It just takes one to call it out, um, and then it just brings down the whole scam, And El Pasoans have been absolutely scammed. Look at how high their property taxes are. That's from all of this scamming, all the scamming for all these contracts and all the cost of all of this criminal trafficking um, that they use taxpayer funded institutions and agencies to do their dirty work for them, to cover up, to do their dirty work, to be the jefe, be the capo, be the fixer, um, and worse, just absolutely be criminals, and then and charge the people for it. It's like the defense of Patrick Crucius, right? Charge the people for it millions and millions of dollars, and they pocket the money. I mean, it's very obvious what they have been doing. It's kind of like the schools, and we can talk about El Paso schools, how they built these schools, pocketed the money for all the contracts for the construction, and all the costs of a school, right? And yet they didn't have enough children for those schools. Now they wanted to close down 8 of them, and the last time I heard it was 7 of them. Um, because when President Trump at the beginning of this year became president of the United States, he closed down that border, and that meant that they couldn't go and with these big fancy buses over to Juarez and pick up the children to come and be educated in El Paso to fill up the schools that they really did not need, right? They didn't need. And so, this is how these um, these billionaires, um, operated, and then um, compromised. Many generals were compromised, are compromised, and today we have a huge conflict of interest that shows the level of compromise in the El Paso field office of the FBI, and that includes George Toros. George Toros, of course, George Toros worked alongside um, Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. And we know today that George Toros absolutely lied about opening up an investigation into uh, Manuel Chavira. They call him Manny Chavira, the unqualified. Really, it's a fake again. It's a fraud again. It's kind of like these the mag court judges are a fraud or a fake. It's kind of like James 2028 stamp Montoya, fraud and a fake. It's kind of like the medical examiner, Mario Raskin Ortiz, unqualified and illegally in this country, fraud and a fake. Um, it's kind of like um, Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, uh, you know, using criminals, unreliable sources, being a co-conspirator for these mega crimes, including targeting our son Richard and the loss of his life. Um, you know, and this includes that, and so here we have um, Manuel Chavira, uh, you know, being the EOC, right? The EOC for the Walmart case. He was for the Secure and Safe School Initiative. As a matter of fact, I should bring it up, or I'll just do it by memory. It's not going to be perfect. I'll post it all up, but so he was uh, retired from the fire department. He was the assistant fire chief for the El Paso fire department for years, right? For decades. And then he did I think it's called Secure and Safe School Initiative, and then the liaison for emergency operations, right? For the Emergency Operations Center liaison for that. He was part of that during the Walmart mass shooting. And it's so interesting because it's, the meetup point, the reunion point for the Walmart mass shooting, um, emergency operations center aftermath, first responders, or that kind of group. And Manny Chavira was a big part of that, right? He was a big part of that. Even his car dealership, while his son's Alexis, um, that is connected to Richard's car, right? The trafficking of Richard's car. And this is all cartel, okay? I'm just telling you, these are all connected to the cartel. um, is right across the street from the Walmart. I'll put up a map. I think it's really interesting to see all this close relationship. But the reuniting center was at MacArthur Elementary, which is just so strange to us. My husband was like, "That's a God thing. That's a God," because that's where I went to school. That's where I went to school. I told you I'm not a stranger to El Paso. I was born at White Sands Missile Range, on the range, on the range. I was one of the very few babies ever born on the range. So when Richard said that he was going to be stationed in El Paso, um, I was really excited. I love that area. Of course, when I lived there, the um, the cartel had made such a huge criminal syndicate mess out of El Paso. Um, it was, there's always problems, right? Because it's a border city. You understand there's problems. That's to be expected because of the border. That's why we need a really good FBI there. That's why we need a really good FBI. And I went to school in El Paso. I lived on Fort Bliss. I lived on Shed Road on Fort Bliss. Um, and I swam in the replica pool. I think that pool has been filled up since, but it used to be an Olympic-sized swimming pool. My coach was Colonel Johnson. We called him CJ. I was confirmed there at the replica chapel. Um, that's where I was confirmed in my Christian faith. So of course, I have this long history there. And one of the 1 year that my father had to leave he was deployed to South Korea, and you at that time you couldn't go there with the family, and you couldn't live on post. Um, so we had to move off post, and that's why that was that year that I went to MacArthur. That I went to MacArthur Elementary School, and I think it's like almost a middle school now. Um, so to see that, I'm familiar with that area, um, and the the cartel, Silla Vista Mall and Silla Vista Walmart, are real hot spots for the cartel. And so for that, the Walmart Mall, Silla Vista Walmart Mall shooting, because we know that there were multiple shooters. We know that we have been lied to. We know that Manny Chavira had a big part to play in the aftermath, or of the Walmart mass shooting, which is very concerning because we had I call him the bad Michael Cordero, because of course we have the good Cordero, but we have this bad Michael Cordero. but he leaked some things out to us when he reached out to us, which he shouldn't have done, but he did. But he did leak some things, and that was that the FBI did not secure the Walmart mass shooting scene, the crime scene, for more than 2 days. Can you imagine that? That they did not secure it. And of course, it wasn't really a shock to us because we have the videos where they're just walking over a body, they're taking pictures, and these are civilians, or the police are not even securing the area when they're showing up. They're telling people to leave. What? You want a witness to leave? Right? You have to secure the area, secure all the people, debrief all the people. And of course, Manny Chavira was a big part of this with the Emergency Operations Center. And of course, he had this huge connection with RNA Auto Group right across the street from the Walmart, right across the street. So, something is very, very fishy here because we know that George Toros, the FBI agent, a big player in all of this, um, absolutely lied about looking into Manny Chavira because Manny Chavira wasn't qualified at all to become chief of police for the ISD. And we know that the El Paso ISD, something is very wrong going on in there. Anyone that hires Amber Chase, there's something. They don't do background checks. They're not looking for, they're not doing their job. Okay. And with the vetting, and they did not do the vetting for Manny Chavira, and everyone knows it. Okay, of course they do these spin pieces. The media does this spin piece, and we all know that the media can't be trusted anymore, that the media has an agenda that is not for the people, that is absolutely for the conspiracy, to collude, to conspire, to cover up for colluding and conspire of doing crimes, manufacturing even stories and all kind. And we know that through story after story after story. Even with Kamala Harris, where the media even cut and pasted because her answers were so bad, and they tampered with the media. And now I think President Trump is going to win, loads of money from the tampering of the election. And so we know that the media was spinning so much so that you have to sit down because you might get dizzy, right? You might fall over or dizzy from the spin if you're not familiar with it. But we're familiar with it, and what they were putting out about Manny Chavira was such a spin it would make you dizzy. You'd have to sit down. It was just absolutely they were doing uh, they wanted to give him the job even though he wasn't qualified. And passing over all of these other police officers that were way more qualified, not allowing, an honest pick out of the El Paso ISD police officers to give a proper chief of police. And why wasn't he qualified? Because he was a fireman. He was a fireman. He didn't even have a peace officer's license. He didn't have. He didn't go to the police academy. He didn't go to the police academy, and they gave him this job as chief of police of ISD. And we know that um, George Toros, the FBI agent there in El Paso, in the field office, lied about investigating Manny Chavira. Okay, lied about it, um, and pretended, and didn't do it. And we, you know, uh, that wasn't even a big surprise to us because That same thing happened with Marlon Soto, in charge, the CID, the criminal investigator, on Fort Bliss, and telling us that they did things and they didn't do things, and absolutely lying and pretending. And it was so obvious they're not really good at pretending. And so that they're pretending, that they're lying. But you're waiting for the truth, and the truth is not there. You're getting lied to. You're getting disinformation. You're getting deceived, and they're spinning, and it's dizzy, right? And so you're trying to figure out, and it's really obstruction of justice then, and also not giving us our honest services because we pay them. They're all paid by taxpayer money, and so they're not doing their job. And so we absolutely know that there were leaks coming out of the FBI El Paso field office, that they weren't investigating like they should. Um, they're covering up for the criminals that are cartel, y'all. This is the cartel, right? And they're covering up for it. And, it's just gets more and more obvious. And for, of course, the billionaires that are in bed with the cartel, there's no other explanation for it. They're in bed with the cartel, and they're making loads and loads of money, criminal trafficking, and they, uh, put together like a criminal business plan, and they compromise the FBI office there in El Paso, and they compromise Fort Bliss, and they compromise the El Paso Police Department, and they compromise DHS, and the State Department and Department of Justice, of course, because of the MAG court is totally compromised. And of course, the prosecutor's office, which is very important, is totally compromised. Right now we have James 2028 stamp Montoya, totally illegitimate, right? And then, of course, we had the compromised federal courthouse with the Mayellas. And the Mayellas, our family too, Patrick Crucius, um, the defendant in the Walmart mass shooting. And Alexis Mayella, the daughter of the courthouse manager, where Patrick Crucius's case was being, um, the plea deal being brought forth and everything, that's defective now, right? Because that's his own family. His own family's working out his plea deal, right? Um, and my Alexis is married to Patrick Crucius's brother, Brian Blake Crucius, and she's into medicine, right? So they're covering the medicine, of course, are covering the medicine, and Texas Tech University Health Services is where she's doing her fellowship right now. She's doing her fellowship. And, it's like, okay, good for her, even though she has, information um, of this defective plea deal of her brother-in-law. Um, because Patrick Crucius didn't just randomly pick El Paso. She allowed El Pasoans to be lied to and deceived. And she absolutely threw her brother in law under the bus. And of course, the El Pasoans wanted a death penalty, and they didn't get a death penalty. They didn't get a death penalty because there was never a trial date. There was never a trial, because there was so much deception and defectiveness in this case. And it gets even worse because George Torres, the FBI agent that lied and deceived and pretended and everything, and collected his pay while he was doing it, shilling or covering for the cartel, criminal trafficking syndicate, and cartel contract syndicate. Um, and there's so much to it because we just had this huge victory of this, what the Hummer, right? The Hummer, who was in charge of Zetas. I need to read it again. And all of this money, I need to go to the post. All of this money and all of these drugs, and not just that. Explosives, right? Hand grenades, explosives, all of that. That comes from Fort Bliss, y'all. You know, all of that is criminal trafficking from Fort Bliss, and it's like mega drugs that will come back over, right? They 540 guns, I think, went to the cartel, and so they were absolutely gun smuggling, ammunition trafficking of all kinds, and of course trafficking back over the substances, and of course the children, and all of that industry that is up to no good. And so yes, George Toros absolutely was covering up for all of that and collecting his law enforcement wages. He absolutely needs to pay all that back. He absolutely um, um, didn't give us our services, you know, our services. This is deception 101, you know, and he absolutely did not investigate Manny Chavira. He did not have a peace officer's license. It's and people say, "Oh, but that, oh, whatever. He went and got it again." But you know what? Um, they were saying they misinterpreted the law and said he had like a year grace period to go to the police academy to become police to become the police chief. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Um, and then they cited his service with the fire department. Fire department's very, very different than police. Okay, they're very, very different. And then they cited his um, EOA experience, emergency operations, right? They cited that. That's very different from police. Sorry, it's very different. I know you respond to mass shootings or active shooters and that kind of training, but it is very different from being a police. And to say that they're going to make him the chief of police without even having any experience and not even having uh, a peace officer's license, not ever going to the police academy, and all of a sudden being made the chief. That's sorry, that's a quid pro quo. That's a quid pro quo. And he was made that on this is what's so suspicious. He was given that on August 16th, 2019. So that's only 13 days after the Walmart mass shooting. I think there was a quid pro quo there, right? Because we know that the Walmart mass shooting is up to no good. It's up to no good, right? The whole thing, the whole thing. So, and then like 17 months later, supposedly he got he went to the police academy, and so then they gave him a full on police chief. Um, so, but that all of that is so illegal. It's just so illegal, and um, so we know that Taurus is up to no good. We know that Alexis Mayella and the Mayella family are up to no good. They're in the FBI office, and Taurus didn't say anything about that. That Michael G. Mayella was in the FBI office during the time. Jesus Nieto didn't talk about how this cybersecurity. Um, Brother-in-law of Patrick Crucius was in the FBI office, was in the DA's office, was working for Walmart cybersecurity at the time. They didn't say that, and Alexis Mayella didn't say that at all. And then to find out that George Torres's, well, maybe that's connected. George Torres's wife, Melissa Mendez. Melissa Mendez is a doctor there with Texas Tech University Health Services Center, right? Where Alexis Mayela is doing her fellowship. And of course, they're working together. They're working together, y'all. This is with access, it is such a conflict of interest. It blows you away, the conflict of interest. And then it even gets worse because Texas University Health Service Center gives El Paso Matters like o- over as Bob Moore admitted, over 50% of his running income to run El Paso Matters. Of course, its parent company is El Paso Community Foundation, which is the hunt company, right? Um, so you have this massive money coming into El Paso Matters, and it's like quid pro quo again. So, and you have to remember that Debbie Nathan wrote an article. She was fired. She was fired by mentioning that there was a person in the judicial system that was connected to Patrick Crucius, very closely connected, right? And I don't know if that's the reason why she got fired, but she got fired. And uh, Bob Moore knew this. Absolutely, he's CEO, right? He was the editor, um, and he absolutely knew that Mayela um, was the connection with Patrick Crucius, and now you have him not reporting on that. That happened in July of 2020, y'all. That article that Debbie Nathan wrote that outed it, but not mentioning names, that happened in July of 2020. And so, Bob Moore kept that from us. And so that means that Patrick Crucius, the plea deal in 2021, totally defective, totally defective. And the taxpayers got charged millions and millions of dollars, and then they got disenfranchised, didn't they? Because they wanted a death penalty for this huge, huge crime that was, and maybe the death penalty's on the table for these absolutely huge criminals. It really needs to be because you're talking about huge criminal trafficking and messing with uh, obstructing this case and denying honest services to the people of El Paso and the world, really the world. It is so big. And to have Melissa Mendez, the wife of the FBI, El Paso, George Torres, working um, with Mayela, with Alexis Mayela. It's so criminal, y'all. It is absolutely so criminal. And so just like they messed with the Walmart case, we know that A&R Chavira Auto Group, is uh, Richard's car was trafficked through that, right? Um, r- you know, and they're up to no good. We know that they're a cartel and they target our young sons and daughters that come there. I mean, Richard came there from Europe, well, from basic training, but he joined from Korea. He had come over there from um, Florida because he was there for a short time from Europe where he grew up from Longford, Ireland, even as a distinguished honor graduate at basic training. He said, the announcer said, Richard Halliday from Longford, Ireland. Okay, so he comes to El Paso, and they're targeting him because he absolutely in Qatar already um, was reporting the that things were really really bad. Things were really bad. So and so much so that he didn't say, "Okay, I want to leave," and I'll just wait till the next duty station or get deployed. No, he said it was so bad that he wanted to get out of the army. That's how bad it was. So this unit with Dallas Hart, and now Dallas Hart is so connected to the Walmart case. Okay, he is so connected to the Walmart case, and not in a good way. And he's Richard's platoon leader and the prime suspect in Richard's taking Richard's life. So, um, and I can't tell, I'm not at liberty to tell you all the information coming in because yesterday was a huge day again and today a huge day again because of getting information about uh, Marlon Soto. Marlon Soto's connection with even all of this medical stuff and conflicts of interest that he did not share with us and he should have recused himself. He has huge conflicts of interest. And so, how can this happen? Um, it's a billionaire that um, can pay to make this happen, can set this up um, through HR, right? Human resources, which is interesting when you know who's who and all of this. It's interesting. But for Bob Moore to get that kind of, it's almost like blood money from Texas Tech University. That, I mean, call it what you want. Uh, it's so criminal for him to do quid pro quo and to not run stories or to do a cover up job or to lie about Richard's case, to target Richard, to he's a co-conspirator because well, I don't know if it's his daughter, it's like his daughter, um, shares two children with Manny Chavira's son, right? So that's Raquel Primo with A&R Chavira. So they all absolutely targeted Richard. And here it is, Richard's birthday. Just, we're really burning the midnight oil tonight, but, it's Richard's birthday and absolutely um, you see what a hero Richard is for standing up to this huge criminal syndicate, cartel criminal syndicate, deadly. I mean, just in 48 hours, I think there's 5 people that were hung, um, in Juarez, Mexico. Um, Cartel fights between the Juarez cartel and the Sinaloa cartel. It's really, and then of course, the diversion is the Iran, and I don't think it's um, as much of a diversion as they were hoping to get. So we'll see. It looks like a peace deal, but it's still kind of being all worked out. And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure to get a diversion going. And I guess they chose Iran to do that diversion because none of this needed to happen. None of it. But they want to stop Trump at every turn. They have to put something, a huge roadblock to try to slow him down. And he seems to be making lemonade from the lemons every time. Every time. He is just a master at doing that. And we just want to make sure everyone knows that we are 100%. We support President Trump, and we absolutely have evidence upon evidence that proves that he's been under relentless retaliation and an inner war, I would say, between the billionaires, right? Um, the billionaires don't want him um, stopping their criminal. He's an honest billionaire, right? And I don't want to say like totally honest. There's not one good, but Christ alone. But he's been audited over and over and over again. They have found nothing. He's been the target of all kinds of court cases, and it's all been proven to be frivolous and absolutely a nothing burger, which and he was targeted, y'all. They wanted to find something. It's amazing. He's really a hero, President Trump is, for withstanding all of that. And but these other billionaires, I can tell you right now, there's evidence upon evidence upon evidence of the most horrific crimes that they've created. Most horrific in every which way, in every which way. And that's why, um, you know, uh, they don't like Trump. And they've pulled out everything to try to stop him. And anyone that's a whistleblower, that's helping Trump, is then again a target by them. So, you know, uh, Richard was even more than that. Even more than that, I was told today he was a precursor to the investigations, the movements of President Trump down there. I don't know, but all I know is he's a total hero, and it should have been his birthday today. I mean, it is his birthday, but it should have been his 26th birthday today. And I should be, say, congratulating him. I probably should be in getting ready for a wedding or another grandbaby, or um, helping him out in whatever endeavor that he's doing. Um, yeah, it's really it's so heartbreaking what they've done, and they need to be held accountable for it. And we need to do it right. We need to do it right. We need to do it legally, even though it takes a little time and it's a little painstaking. But we need to do it absolutely right, because we need these criminals held to the highest accountability. The death penalty needs to be on the table. They can't do this to our volunteer sons and daughters. They can't do this to the El Paso community. They can't weaponize the judicial system, the law enforcement system like they have, and even the medical system. Because right now, with the conflicts of interest, with um, Melissa Mendez and Alexis Crucius in there, they just cannot be trusted. They cannot be trusted. Their proven history um, makes them, I would say, implicates them in the crimes. I'll leave that for the lawyers and the judges to work out. But this kind of access to medical health care, the ability, we know that the medical files, Richard's files, were tampered with. We know lots of fraud in our medical system. And to put people in there that cannot be trusted. And then, of course, we had a good day yesterday with Governor Abbott, and a very bad one today, because he's just selling our medical sovereignty out, letting other countries' doctors come in. Um, it, it is, and you can't possibly vet them. And we have a huge cartel problem. We have a huge CCP problem. We have, yeah, we already have a problem. So I can't even. I just don't even see how Governor Abbott, well, we know he's up to no good. Um, Yesterday, he even a bad clock, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So he got something right yesterday, but today he just blew it. He just absolutely blew it again. And I hope that that gets addressed because we have, an unqualified medical examiner, chief medical examiner, $430,000 a year, and nobody scrutinized him. The FBI's handling of the case, of the bodies, of the autopsies, because we know that the autopsies are not right, y'all. They are not right. And that's why there couldn't be even a date for a trial, much less a trial, because all of this would come out. So all the fraud, it's to loosen up regulations is not the answer uh, to bring in Mexican doctors into the country. To loosen up those regulations is not the answer. It really isn't. So he messed up today. Governor Abbott really messed up today. Um, yeah, this is the conflicts of interest without oversight, without the transparency. And you have Veronica Escobar going, "We want to be transparent." And she's just, she's just losing all kinds of power. She's becoming a nobody, and she really is a criminal. She really needs to be arrested. So, you know, not not as a sure thing as Lalani Hart. Lalani Hart, absolutely, there's no doubt about it. She needs to be arrested, right? So, and the FBI didn't do that, did they? They didn't do that. So, that just shows you that they're impotent, that they are compromised, that they have conflicts of interest, that they are pretending and they're collecting while pretending and not doing their job and denying us honest services, um, which is also a crime, which is also a crime. So, thank you, everyone. Um, Thank you so much for your support. Please, if you have a chance, send a little recorded message, send another little message, a birthday message for Richard. Maybe I can put something together, a little video or something like that. That would be um, something special for him tomorrow. We'll see if the days go. It's just so crazy. We'll see if people have time because it's been just so crazy. Thank you so much, Martha, for your prayers and your love coming on so late. I know it's really late tonight. Um, and happy heavenly birthday, Richard. Thank you for your service and being so courageous. And thank you, Martha, for saying that. Thank you so much. So he's our hero. He's our hero. Okay, everyone. Um, have a great night, and I will